All right, let's get right into it. We usually think of failure as, well, a dead end, right? The end of the road. But what if it's not? What if it's actually a burden we need to carry? A weight that, if you carry it the right way, can totally change your life's mission. Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today with this incredible story from Nietzsche's Zarathustra. We're talking about the parable of the weight of failure. It's all about what happens after the big rejection and how that very moment can create something so much stronger. This single line, honestly, it's the heart of the entire parable. You see, after his big speech completely bombs, the prophet Zarathustra ends up carrying a dead body. And the text says its weight is heavy, like his wisdom. I mean, what a powerful image, right? It's this perfect physical metaphor for a deep spiritual crisis. You know that feeling, when the very things you believe in the most suddenly feel like a massive weight on your shoulders? All right, so let's set the scene here. You've got Zarathustra, our prophet, standing in this town square, right? It's called the Motley Cow. He's just poured his heart out trying to share this deep, world-changing wisdom. And the crowd, they could not care less. No, they were way more interested in watching a tightrope walker. But then, disaster strikes. The performer falls and dies. And just like that, the crowd vanishes. The show's over. And Zarathustra's left all alone, holding the body of this fallen entertainer. And this is where the real story actually kicks off. It's not really about the public failure, the humiliation. It's about what happens next. In that heavy silence, Zarathustra makes a choice. He doesn't just leave. Instead, he lifts the body of the tightrope walker onto his shoulders and starts walking, away from the town and deep into the forest. So you have to understand, this act is hugely symbolic. I mean, he's not just carrying a body out of kindness. No. That body represents the crushing weight of his own failed mission. It's like his big ideas, his whole purpose, died right there in that town square. And now he's literally carrying the corpse. This is that gut punch moment when your deepest beliefs slam right into a world that just doesn't care. So as he's walking deeper and deeper into these woods, something starts to shift. The struggle isn't just physical anymore. It's becoming a psychological battle. He's now forced to face the shadows of his failure, the voices both inside his head and out. And in that forest, he comes face to face with what the story calls the spirit of contempt. I want you to think of this as that nasty, cynical little voice in the back of your mind, the one that, after you fail, whispers, "I told you so. I knew you couldn't do it. They were never going to listen." It's basically the personification of that cynical fear that his ideas were just too big for people. And guess what? It just came true. And this is the first really tough pill he has to swallow. I mean, think about it. He offered this crowd a chance at real transformation, a way to become something more. But what did they actually want? A show, an acrobat. They literally chose entertainment over enlightenment, spectacle over salvation. Which brings us to this amazing metaphor that just nails his mistake. It's like he was trying to give honey to bears. Just perfect, isn't it? He was offering this incredibly refined, precious gift, his wisdom, to an audience that had no way of understanding or appreciating it. It was just a complete mismatch, a totally naive strategy. So right here, this is the moment of truth. Zarathustra has to just own it. He failed, he was naive, his whole approach was wrong, and this first attempt was a total disaster. He lost this round, plain and simple. But, and this is so important, it's in accepting that failure that everything starts to change. This leads us to a really critical turning point in the whole parable. Zarathustra enters this state of mind called atonement. But hold on, because it's probably not what you're thinking. This has absolutely nothing to do with feeling guilty or, asking for forgiveness. What's happening here is the story is totally redefining this word for us. So on the one hand, you have the common view, right? Atonement is about saying, "I'm sorry, I was wrong." But Zarathustra's version, it's completely different. For him, it's a cold, hard, strategic breakdown of what went wrong. He's not apologizing for his ideas. He's analyzing why his delivery failed. It's a course correction, not a confession. And this whole experience, the walk into the woods, confronting his failure, this is his belly of the whale moment. If you know anything about classic storytelling or the hero's journey, you know this part. It's that moment of total darkness, that deep dive where the hero has to confront their own weaknesses and limitations. It's the descent you have to make before you can have any real transformation.
So, what's the result of this whole ordeal in the forest? A total reinvention. A fundamental shift in who he is and what he's trying to do. See, he walked into those woods as a preacher, trying to save the whole world. He's about to walk out as something completely different.
Here's the core realization he has. He sees his own wisdom as being like the sun, just pouring out this generous, life-giving energy. But the hard lesson is you can't just shine that sun on everybody. Why? Because when you pour it out on people who, and this is a direct quote, just want to blink in contented stupidity, all that light, all that generosity, it's just wasted.
So you can map out the evolution of his purpose perfectly. Step 1, he starts with this grand mission to save everybody, what he calls the herd. Step 2, the painful realization hits that, yeah, that's not going to work. That generosity gets wasted. And that leads directly to step 3, a brand new goal. Not a mission to save, but a mission to create. And not for everyone, but for a select group he calls the inspired few. So what does this new mission actually look like? Let's break it down, because it is a total pivot from where he started. Okay, this shift is everything. First, his focus changes completely. He's not shouting at crowds anymore. He's looking for those inspired few. His method also changes. He stops being a public preacher and becomes a strategic creator. And his new audience? Well, it's people who are actually willing to take risks. People like that tightrope walker. People willing to face their own downgoing, which is this idea of overcoming yourself, of risking it all for something more. So his purpose isn't about saving the herd anymore. It's about creating meaning for the earth, but through these few exceptional people. And that, of course, brings this whole parable right back to you and me. See, for Zarathustra, failure wasn't the end of the story. It was the weight. It was the heavy, necessary burden that forced him to sharpen his mission into something way more powerful and effective. So I'll just leave you with this question. What failure are you carrying right now? Or maybe, what failure are you avoiding? Because it just might be the very weight you need to lift to completely transform your own mission.